Houston, Texas. Some say it's the new Web3 startup capital of the world. Others say, what the heck is Web3? Others say, where is Houston, Texas? Houston, Texas is a place in Texas with the best baseball team in the United States. Go Stros, Altuve for president. I don't want to talk about the Rangers. In this special episode of the Celebrate Houston Business Podcast, we're going to speak with Giorgio Villani, the founder and CEO of Spindletop Digital, a Web3 consultancy based right here in Houston, Texas. We're going to dig into some very scary topics for this special episode, including the ownership of data, the ownership of your privacy, the ownership of your DNA, the ownership of your destiny. So let's get into this awesome episode. If you like what we're doing here, please consider giving us a like and a subscribe and all that. We try to celebrate Houston businesses and give voice to entrepreneurs that are operating and making a difference right here in Houston, Texas. Without further ado, let's get into the podcast, and thank you for joining. Well, we have Giorgio Villani here of Spindletop Digital, and we're going to speak with him. He's a Houston business owner in the Web3 and application development space. And you've done a lot of projects, and you've been the coordinator of a pretty substantial Web3 and blockchain and crypto group here in Houston. So I'm very happy to have you on the podcast. Thank you for coming, Giorgio.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Yeah. Okay, so I guess in 3 minutes or so, because we don't have a whole lot of time for this one, Who are you? What's your background? What do you do? What's your story?
Yeah, my name is Giorgio Villani, and
you gotta speak loud. Speak loud for all these mics.
my name is Giorgio Villani, and I'm a Houston native. I've been here for the vast majority of my life. I went to Memorial High School, and then I went to the University of Houston. I got a degree in economics, and for the past 10 years, I've been working in oil and gas. First in inspections, and then for 2 years, and about 8 years in trading. I worked for a company called Coke Minerals and Trading. They did freight, specifically freight, which was an international shipping, commodity trading. And I did, various things. I was, focused primarily on the analysis of the markets, along with building systems to manage data. And about a year and a half ago, because I've been following Web3 and crypto for quite some time, I decided to quit my job and focus on it exclusively, helping businesses in Houston, in oil and gas, medical, all those people incorporate Web3 into their applications, into their offering, because I believe that Web3 is more focused on individuals, empowering individuals. It's the next kind of movement of the internet, where individual data is owned by people instead of corporations, for example.
There will be people who are super stoked to go down the rabbit hole about crypto. There will be people who really do not want to hear anything about it because it's so overwhelming of a topic that they don't want to discuss. So I think I want to hear about your services, but before you get into that, maybe for the average person, explain what is crypto blockchain in regards to what you work on.
Okay. Well, generally people get confused about the term Web3. They're like, what is that? I mean, people, I think, have heard of blockchain, they have heard of crypto. Those terms have generally been used as catch-alls for, just the space in general, which essentially is just Web3, right? Web3 was a term that was invented by a man by the name of Gavin Wood. He was one of the original developers of Ethereum, and he was like, we're missing a term that encompasses all this, because even within the Web3 space, there's blockchains, and then there's other ones called DAGs, different technologies.
Let's back up, because I'm thinking of my dad, and I'm thinking of my friend who doesn't know anything about crypto, and even the term Web3, right? There must have been a Web 1 and a Web 2.
Exactly.
Right? Explain, what is Web 1? What is Web 2? What is Web 3?
Well, so that's kind of begs the question, right? With Web 3, it's like, well, what's 1 and 2? Well, 1 and 2, depending on how old you are, is something that we're very familiar with. When I started messing around with the internet, we had dial-up. We also had this thing called AIM and AOL. Right, and a lot of people were dealing with, the internet.
Isn't it weird? Sorry to interrupt, but isn't it bizarre to think that there are so many folks nowadays
that don't even know
they did not grow up in the 90s. Like, dang.
Yeah,
Anyways.
the thing that we're familiar with because we grew up with it, which was the dial-up. Some people don't even recognize that that sound.
Yeah.
And so we had to do that every time you got on the internet. You heard this beep. Yeah, exactly. So that is kind of a representation of Web 1, right?
Web 1 is just being able to look at information.
Information on the internet. You weren't trusting anybody, right? So you didn't have to rely, and people weren't doing commerce online on Web 1, right?
Yeah, there was not really much interaction. Like it was essentially like looking at a newspaper.
Exactly, it was like a newspaper, and people would use it for chat, chat purposes. You chat people because it was a new technology. So people were like, oh, I can communicate with somebody on another side of the world instantaneously. This is incredible. So
yeah, there were times where, like, my dad, I remember, I don't even know where he got it from. He had this weird computer, and he was saying, oh, there's these guys that are fishermen, and I'm asking about, like, oh, should I use this lure? You'd have to wait for like 2 days.
Yeah. So that was and that was the promise of the internet, right? Is that we all of a sudden we saw all these capabilities, and people's minds were running, and but we didn't trust the other side. So that's where Web 2 emerged, is when you had companies that were basically that you would trust, that would manage the information. So you'd be able to do e-commerce. You'd be able to put in your credit card information. But in the beginning of Web 2, people didn't even trust that. You're like, oh man, I have to put my credit card. This is not good. And it was for good reason, because some of these Web 2 companies that you trusted, Facebook, for example, was one of these companies that did not encrypt data that you were sending. So that was a vulnerability. And we, as consumers, tried to find the businesses that we felt like had a big enough reputation that wouldn't be screwed over, right? And that's where trust came into play. So
Web 1 is kind of like, Web 2 is the Facebooks, and where like a lot of people are interacting with each other. It's a dynamic process, very. Am I getting that right?
Yeah, it's where trust is coming in. So the first one was trustless. You didn't necessarily. Web 1 was you didn't trust anybody. You had to, but trust. Web 2 is trusted. So you were trusting these counterparties to be able to do. And now
they're storing a lot of your.
They're storing a lot of data, and you have to trust them to manage it correctly. One hack that happened recently was with 23andMe. 23andMe stores your genetic information, right? And they got hacked. So now all your genetic information is available to hackers on the internet. Why? Because you trusted them to manage your own data.
You know what? That's terrifying. You know what happened to me like a few weeks ago? My brother is a pilot, so I sometimes get these flight credits, free flight credits, right?
Yeah.
My parents start taking advantage of these because they can get free flights all the time. My brother's biological parents. And my mother used something at the airport to like speed up the process of getting through security. I think it's called Clear. Clear, right? So she
they do biometrics, they check your eyes, stuff
I
like
didn't
that.
know what I was getting into. She bought it for me. Like, I've got so many things on my mind. I just say, okay, fine, thank you for that. That's great. I show up at the airport. I see Clear. I'm like, okay, I got this credit. They scanned my retinas before I can really. I should have stopped it, right? But I was just caught off guard, man. They scanned my retinas. Now they have my retinal data and my fingerprints.
Yep.
If they get hacked, what is going to happen to that data? Yeah. Somebody's going to buy that information on the dark web, commit some crime.
It's horrendous.
Dang.
Now your genetic information is up for grabs, and this is an artifact of Web 2. This is all the result of you not owning your own data. Yeah. Okay. And so think about it like this: genetic information. This is the reason why I give this as an example is because it's literally the worst case scenario. They could take some cells and they could use now. Your genetic information and place it in different things. So not only could, in this day and age, you can't trust the visual information that you're getting in through video. You can't trust the voice because all that can be generated via AI. You can't check somebody actually doing something because you got deepfakes. You can't even trust the genetic material that you find at a location. This is like day zero now, right? And it's all because Web 2 was created and we trusted these counterparties. Now Web3 is what we believe in the space is the solution, is that rather than it being in one place, it's distributed to all the individuals. So now I have to grant access. They don't even store my credentials. A Web3 application doesn't store your credentials. All the information is encompassed in your identity, which you control 100%. So if somebody needs, so a perfect example is medical. If somebody wants to get your medical information, they don't go to the repository that has your information, they go to you. And then you decrypt it and send it to them. They never get access directly to it. They never store your data.
This happened to me
Yeah.
in Australia. Hey, sorry to interrupt. Just real quick, if you're enjoying this and you want to support Houston businesses, please give the video a like. And if you want to reach me for digital marketing services, or you want to reach Giorgio for Web3 consultations, Web3 software builds, he organizes hackathons, he attends hackathons. He's got an incredible amount of knowledge in that space. Both of us can be reached through the links in the description at the bottom of this video. I'll let you get back to it, and thank you again for watching. I've never talked about this much, and I won't get into all of it, but suffice it to say, my employer was demanding my medical information.
Yeah.
And there was someone who had that medical information. It wasn't me. And luckily, the laws were such that my employer was not able to legally go to my medical provider or
So
whatever.
who are you trusting in that situation?
Well,
You're trusting the government
Exactly.
to protect you.
That's exactly right. Yeah, and the government easily could have simply come up with a law, emergency, whatever they want to call it.
And they've done this before.
They would force the medical provider to give information to XYZ.
Yeah.
Right? You're right. I don't have control of that. That was very annoying to me.
So
to say the least.
People who are excited about Web3 are excited about a fundamental right that they believe that they have. You have a right for you to own your own identity, to own your own information. You don't believe that they own your information. So it's a flipping of the script with what we believe is correct in society, right?
That is a big problem, isn't it? Because dude, we don't have enough time to talk about all this.
Let me back it up and tell you why Spindletop Digital exists. Because Spindletop Digital exists because I've already made the bet. I believe that people will drive the next change, and they'll want to have services that focus on a Web3 system. And all the companies, even large companies, because it doesn't mean that large companies are going to disappear. It just means that they have to change their business model to accommodate this new structure where they are service providers, they provide services, but you control the data. You're the one who is acknowledging all these things. And as long as you hold the keys, then we, in theory, get a better future, right? And so Spindletop Digital makes it so people who have this desire can do that, can incorporate it into their systems and their businesses, existing businesses, Web3 components. Now, there's, of course, a lot of this Web3 stuff utilizes state-of-the-art app development. We use this thing called progressive apps. That's something new that various applications within the space has come out to essentially empower individuals. Now, it's in the early stages, but this is new stuff. So people who want to also investigate in this technology, they can work with me to
Do you provide consulting to folks who are trying to see if it's right for them?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the first thing that I would do with anybody is I go through their existing systems. We try to figure out what piece makes sense, what Web3 component makes sense to incorporate in their business. Because not everything needs to be Web3, but if you have the key things, identity and things that would make sense for them to be in a Web3 space, that's what we focus on. We're not doing the whole thing. We just focus on the main ones.
Can you give me an example of someone you've worked with or a business that this would be right for?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so one of the things that I think, I've done a lot of stuff with art people, right? And so
I believe they're called artists.
Yeah, art people, creative people, artists slash artists. And one of the things that I do with them is, because the thing is it's not necessarily immediately obvious why an artist would start to investigate into Web3, right? But the thing about it is that it's a way for them to essentially get physical pieces of art. And in the particular situation that I'm talking about, I have an artist who is Houston-based. His name is Omar Ochoa. And what we wanted to do is we wanted to basically create a relationship between him and his patrons, because he was going to various markets around Houston and he was selling things to people directly, right? And unless you collect their email address and things like that, you really don't maintain a connection with them. Mm-hmm. And so what we were thinking about is, hey, what we can do is we can create a connection with them through this NFT, which the NFT represents the physical piece of art. And once they own that NFT, they have options.
So he does every painting, physical painting or piece of art that he has an associated NFT.
NFT, yeah. And until they deliver, because
an NFT is like a picture of it, or
so an NFT just essentially represents ownership of something, right?
So it's not necessarily, doesn't look like a piece of art necessarily.
No, it could be. Yeah, I mean, it could be just like a token representation. Generally, what we use is we use the image of the piece, and it's like a claim against the actual physical piece. So they could buy it. It's almost like you go to an e-commerce site and you buy something, and they immediately go through fulfillment. Well, you might say, "Hey, I don't want to fulfill it yet. I'm moving right now. I want to own it." And so you buy it, and then they hold it until you want to redeem it, right? So it's giving optionality to the buyer. It's giving additional optionality to the buyer. It's giving some benefits to the actual artist himself, because he has a connection with their wallets, and he can actually provide them additional features later on because they're one of his original patrons.
And it solves a huge issue that I've heard exists in art, which is that you can't verify the authenticity of
the authenticity.
But with the NFT that's associated with the authentic piece, that is not an issue anymore.
It's not an issue,
which is massive.
Yeah, and so there's a lot of benefits: authenticity, verifying authenticity, communication between your patrons.
Of course, I should back up and ask the question. Let's just say that there is a facility in which there's a lot of art.
Yeah.
Maybe it's even the artist's facility. He sells me the NFT, so I now have a claim on this piece of art. And I go to redeem it. Let's just say if that art has ever changed hands before, I still don't know if the one that I'm redeeming is authentic.
Well, yeah, in the original, essentially minting of this NFT, you know that it's being vouched by the artist himself, right? And so he's did the art, and so he creates the NFT. Now, you can verify whether or not there's additional copies. Any copy that does not have an associated NFT is not authentic.
But how would I know? I mean, let's just say one of these guys here, Let's March, is the authentic one, and I'm issued an NFT, and I then go to redeem this, but someone has made a copy of that one. How do I know if I'm redeeming the original one or the copy?
How do you know that you're redeeming the original one or the copy? Well, the original one, because you're still going to have the NFT certificate.
Yeah, I have that.
If they were to sell the another version of it, that wouldn't be associated with the NFT collection. So, because they can't get that from you, you have to sell it to them. So it's almost like when you have like a Rolex watch or whatever, they give you the certificate and then they give you the watch, right? Those two things can be separated, but then they reduce the value of one, right? Like he could get another one and then say, okay, this is the authentic one, but it reduces the value and it's provable, like, because when somebody checks the authenticity of it, they can prove that.
I just feel like there would have to be something on the physical piece that was super unique and could not be forged. It tied but I guess the other nice thing about
there is a solution where you have this embedded chip.
Yeah.
So you can do that as well, right?
And so the other nice thing about that with the NFT is that the NFT is creating a record of transactions as well.
Exactly.
That's quite interesting.
And maybe the only way that you can transfer it is you have to scan the physical piece on custody transfer. So there's all these things that don't even exist right now, but this is a Web3 solution, right? And so with the focus of empowering each people, each entity within the thing. So, that's why the consulting and first discussing of where Web3 can actually be relevant to you comes into play. right? And of course, once you have these things, then when you get one of the other key benefits of Web3, which is interoperability. So you can take the NFT and you can use it for other financial transactions. You can say, oh, well, I want to put this NFT that's worth whatever as collateral for this loan.
So it becomes more fungible.
It becomes more interoperable with other financial systems. That's how Web3 works, is that you have all these entities that essentially work with each other without actually knowing each other, right? Because I can take this NFT and I can say, oh, well, I'll put this down, and they say, okay, well, I'll give you a certain amount of credit. There's actually Web3 projects that I met. I went to Marfa, which was an industry event.
Right.
They
so you can actually
provide loans against assets that you have. They have to vouch the authenticity, which is part of the process.
I think there's going to be repo guys that are going to repo NFT. They just
so
specialize.
How does repo work? And this was a question that a friend of mine posed on, I don't know, LinkedIn. He was like, how does repo work? Right? Because when you put something down as a loan and then you want to get the NFT, which is tied to the physical art, how do you repossess it? Mm-hmm. Well, that happens within the lending contracts, the lending smart contracts, because you have to put that NFT and put that into a lending smart contract. You are essentially putting it into an escrow account when you're doing that. Mm-hmm. So you don't control it anymore. Mm-hmm. And so if you violate the terms of the agreement, it gets repossessed by the people that mm-hmm. you receive the NFT. So, and what do? We don't need somebody to go and repossess it because they just have the NFT. So it's done autonomously using the smart contracts.
Mm-hmm. But someone has to repossess the physical component as well.
So that's another, so then if you've disconnected your NFT from the physical event, because in the beginning, you don't have possession of it, it's possessed by the owners, and the owner, or the artist, and the artist is only going to give it to the person who has the NFT. That's all you need to be able to collect it. And so possession is actually easier.
Yeah, right. So a lot of the value of something is actually stored in the NFT the same way as no one can repossess your house can be, I don't know if the term is repossessed, but basically the bank repossesses it. But the physical assets. Yeah, you ever seen that movie? That's one of my favorites. It's amazing. Emilio Estevez.
Yeah.
God, we really are from the 90s. The physical item doesn't move in the case of a house. A car, someone's going to pull it off. But the claim on the house, that part, which is the most important, is repossessed.
Exactly.
Yeah. So the certificate of authenticity.
So real estate is a perfect example of where this could operate very well, right? Because those custody transfers and those things, those could all be done within smart contracts. So, and because NFTs embedded in the data that you have an NFT, because NFTs are just a token that references another piece of data, right? The JSON file.
It's the name, non-fungible token.
Exactly. So it's referencing one thing that is completely unique. Now that thing that it could be referencing could be a contract, like an actual contract that says, if you buy this, this is a contract you're signing, and by basically purchasing it, you've signed that this is you've agreed to these terms. And so you could actually do, literally do a purchase of a house through buying an NFT.
And the reason that we can't do that at the moment is simply because we don't have the legislation to uphold those types of transactions.
Right. Those things are covered by contract law. So I can use an HAR form within the JSON itself, right?
You have to explain what JSON file is.
So a JSON is it's essentially a standard for formatting data in a file, and it has a curly braces, and then it has different values and keys and values, and so it's just embedding metadata into a file. And so the file itself could reference a contract, which is in real estate you have these promulgated forms, and they could fill out the form and have a fully executed contract within the JSON itself, right? Mm-hmm. And so you can do that when you do this process. So everything that you need to be able to do a real estate transaction is there, because at end of the day, these are all just contracts, right? And the contracts with somebody who's the signer. So this is not necessarily like the tech is here already to do all of these things. And you don't necessarily need, you would take that JSON file and say, oh, this person signed it and they conveyed their house to me. And so everything you need for let's say a real estate transaction, but you just don't have the tools currently to make it easy. And so that's where Spindletop Digital comes into play. We make those tools to figure those things out for you.
And let's just say someone takes you up on this offer to transact in that way and has the tools in place. Is it going to be upheld in court, these transactions?
Well, if you have a contract that's signed by another person, why would they throw that out?
I don't know.
They throw, this is a digital version.
Contract law to,
yeah.
I don't know.
No, if you have a fully executed contract, it doesn't matter if you, because I can print out a contract, an HAR contract, and sign it. That's one way of doing it. I can also have a digital signature using DocuSign. That's another one. The third one now is a Web3 solution. You sign it using your digital wallet.
I guess I could imagine a scenario, not knowing enough about how this works out in the legal system. Someone does this, they're not happy, they have buyer's remorse or whatever. They take the person to court, or for whatever reason it ends up in court one way or another, and the judge says, you did this through crypto. I don't know. No, this is void.
I guess somebody could just say, "Oh, I don't like crypto. This is." Void.
That could have happened with DocuSign, electronic.
Well, you got to look at so
well, right?
I'm not a lawyer, okay, so I don't really know, but I would assume that they would have case law where they bring up an example of somebody so for example, DocuSign is another.
It basically gets elevated to higher.
Yeah, so DocuSign is, I don't think it was necessarily immediately obvious that DocuSign was a legitimate signature, right? Yeah. And so somebody might have brought that up and said, oh, well, I didn't know, that's not my signature or whatever. And then they'd have to, that's why whenever you do something with DocuSign, they have to provide all this additional information to validate that you're the one. Because even the signature in DocuSign is not my signature. They just use a generic signature, but they use the information that all this mosaic of information to say, okay, this person knew his account was not hacked. He acknowledges that he was the one who uses this thing, and they don't even start the communication until you do that. So,
yes, in that regard, it's much more secure than writing on a piece of paper.
Somebody could forge that. Yeah.
Archaic,
exactly. So in the age of technology, we should be utilizing technology to solve problems. The issue is that, and of course the biometric stuff that we were talking about earlier, those things can be compromised now. Because I should be able to just scan my pupil and say, okay, this is me, I'm validating this, and nobody should be able to forge my biometrics. Now people potentially can forge your biometrics.
Sure, forge mine. They've got mine. It's somewhere.
Yeah. So,
people at the TSA, apparently, I'm sure they're great custodians of my retinal scan. Fingerprints.
It's the story of Web 2 is the story of continuous hacks. You have, 23andMe, which was one. Facebook got hacked. You had Facebook was literally sending unencrypted data over the internet at cafes. So if you were sitting because they weren't using HTTPS, so if you were sitting in a cafe and you logged into Facebook with your username and password, a hacker could just pick that information right out of the ether, right? And so you trusted them, and it's just a continuous. It's continuous. That camera went out.
What time? Sorry to interrupt. What time you got?
12:19.
Okay, so we got 10 minutes left. All right, so I think finish what you're saying.
Oh yeah, so it's just my bet is that people are eventually going to get tired with that.
I think it's absolutely inevitable. It might be fought tooth and nail by the government. It might be slowed down. This is my opinion.
Yeah.
It might be slowed down by various calamities.
Well, when you think about it, so when you think about it like this, if you're cynical and you're like, hey, the government wants to do it, there's some validity there as well. But you also can think about it in terms of de-risking. When a company doesn't have to maintain your data, they reduce their overall liability because they are not having to manage your data. So in theory, their risk goes down, and their let's say their insurance policies are less expensive. So Web 2 companies can look at this, especially if they prioritize customers. They can think about this as, hey, if I enter into the realm of Web 3, it's literally going to cost me less from a risk perspective. Insurance companies are going to charge me less because I'm not having to maintain this data. It was the same thing that happened with cloud computing. People were moving, a lot of companies were running on-prem servers, and they realized that they were having to maintain, and that's not their specialty. So they said, oh, let's go to cloud. Maybe it'll be, I think it'll be cheaper because there's economies of scale.
And there will be custodians, because I might not want to manage everything myself, be responsible for everything myself. There will be companies that are built, and they have their reputations built on excellent custodial data.
Well, there are custodians in Web3 as well. There's everything's custodial in Web 2. In Web 3, there are custodians with there's Fireblocks, MetaMask, corporate. They manage the keys for you. Yeah. Right, and because
but the company is no longer.
But the company that's providing the service is no longer involved in that. Yeah, you have a specialty company that manages keys.
So the risk is pushed somewhere else.
It's pushed. The same exact thing happened with cloud, right? Is that you put the exposure on the people who are better equipped to do it.
Yeah, sure.
Right, and to be able to manage my own password. I'm fairly confident. I mean, I know that I could be individually hacked, but there's also an element of a honeypot. When you have all the data in one spot, it becomes a honeypot. And so I'd rather spend my time hacking that than hacking an individual, because A, you might not know how much money they have. That's why anonymity is an important element of security within Web3, because you don't want everybody to know what your bank account is, because then you become a honeypot. Mm-hmm. People will target you. And so it's important to keep those things disconnected to a certain extent from your presence, right? And so that's another thing that's an important component of Web3.
Interesting. Boy, okay, I'm gonna have to have you back on, because I feel like there's a lot more that we can talk about. Yeah. I almost feel like we need to start another podcast just to talk about, because this really is more about allowing Houston businesses to express what they do and their mission. Yeah. So with that, with the last couple minutes, what kind of clients do you like to work with? What are your preferred services to provide? And maybe like just as an entrepreneur here in Houston, what are your dreams?
Well, I want, my dream, let me start off with that, is that Houston becomes a center for Web3 software development. I feel like Houston kind of did not have the opportunity to do that. I think Austin has really been able to push forward with software and development and tech. Houston has, to a certain extent, missed the boat on just general purpose software. They're focused on space and oil and gas and medical. But I believe that we should skip that old Web 2. We don't need to develop that, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. We need to focus on the next wave, which is Web 3. Mm-hmm. That's what we need to focus on. And all the Web 2 companies, all the service providers that are in Houston, they should be leading the pack to integrate Web 3 into their offerings, because they're the ones that really have the biggest exposure. Like, we have one of the largest medical complexes in the world.
One of the largest ports in the world.
One of the largest ports. So and Web 3 can affect positively every single one of those systems. So we should be leaders in Web 3. We should skip Web 2. Web 2's a dinosaur, and we should focus on building things that are Web 3 oriented. And I think it's more in our blood, in Texans, and this is more of a Texas thing. I believe that the rugged individual, the self-sovereign, person.
It is more wild. I say that not in a pejorative way. Like, you feel a greater sense of freedom to move here.
Yeah.
I mean, like, and practically, it's easier to start a business here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
It's more expensive to incorporate for some reason, but
there's lots of opportunities for all the
that's
industries.
That's one of the reasons
Things
why
are cheap.
I called my company Spindletop Digital. I mean, there's some familial aspect to that as well. A different story, but the rugged individual, somebody going out there and putting a well down in the Wildcatters, yeah. And so there's something inherent in, I think, in the Texas mentality to be able to do that. We have a yearning to explore the unexplored. And that's why I challenge Houston to focus on Web3, because that is something that the well hasn't come in completely yet. Mm-hmm. But there's going to be a lot more things that are going to pop up. And you want to focus on these things before everybody's like, it's so obvious. Like, because when that happens, to a certain extent, you've
a little too late.
You're a little too late. Right?
You're not getting that huge first
mover,
advantage.
And we have it. It's part of our mentality to explore, things like that. So let's revitalize and resuscitate that dynamic, and get us to focus more on exploring these things, trying new things, right? Because Houston needs to kind of, get a little bit more involved in that. Now, my ideal customer is somebody who prioritizes their customers, or my primary client is somebody who prioritizes their customers as being the most important thing, right? Mm-hmm. That they want to empower their customers, they want to provide a service for their customers, but they also want to basically benefit and not put their customers in undue risk or exposure. They want to be able to provide a benefit to them. So those are the ones. People who are forward thinking, like my Omar Ochoa, who's a local artist, he's forward thinking. He wanted to do that with the people that he's dealing with, right? Those are my ideal clients.
How can they get in touch with you? How can folks reach you?
So there's a bunch of different ways. You can go to spindletop.digital, the website. That's one way. There's some contact information there. You can also follow me on HTX Web3 on Instagram, where I post various events that we're doing. I'll probably post clips of this interview.
That's on Instagram.
It's on Instagram, HTX Web3. And you can also go to themeetups.com and look up Houston Web3 NFT and AI Meetup, which I host along with Margaret.
We have a very active group.
Very active. We do things. We do a lot of things that are not just educational as well. We do events that are fun. People come out and they can see art. We're going to do music events. We're very active on that space. Plus, on top of that, we get speakers to come in. Like, we had one guy who was a security expert. He came in and kind of explained how in Web3 scenarios, how to secure your funds, how to secure your identity and make sure that you're not a target. So, and then of course we're doing hack nights where we get together with a bunch of different developers, idea people. We did a hack night and you were an amazing participant because you came over there and you immediately, entrepreneurs are important. You don't need to just be a developer to show up to these things. Entrepreneurs are the catalyst, right? And this is the thing that we're forgetting about, is entrepreneurs are the ones who are coming up with these ideas and they're pushing forward. Yeah. And then there's some of the devs that show up there will listen to that and say, oh, I'm interested in this idea, let's work on this, right? So you need it's an ecosystem. So we're trying to build an ecosystem of people who are excited about this space, and we want to do everything we can to support them.
Fantastic. All right, man, let's wrap it up. Thank you so much. You're an incredible guest. Again, if anybody wants to reach out to Giorgio, you have his ways to contact him. And yeah, I guess we'll leave it there. We'll have to do another podcast. But thanks again, Giorgio.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And until next time, be the best.
Cool.
Cool, man. Dude, thank you very much.
Hey, no problem, man.
That's awesome. It's a good one.